Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you're new here. Today we have the last full moon of 2023. We have a full moon in Cancer. So I'm going to be reading the tarot cards for you in that way, in terms of thinking about releasing, cycles ending, not just for this lunar month, but also for the year of 2023. So when you're ready, I have three groups for you. You can go ahead and pick by the card you can see, the number, the sound of my voice, group 1, 2, or 3. When you're ready, all the timestamps are below, and I will see you at the reading that you chose. Hi everyone, welcome. It's for everyone who picked group number 1. So you'll pick the card Cultivate a Beginner's Mind. Try to develop a willingness to release preconceived ideas about the way things should be based on your own beliefs. Having a beginner's mindset keeps your mind open to all possibilities. So this is good advice in general in life, but especially if you've been going through a hard time, or you're feeling frustrated, or you're feeling stuck, or you're feeling like, okay, I know what to do. I'm doing all these things that I should be doing, but it's just not working for me, right? The beginner's mind is a great place to go. It requires humility to have a beginner's mind. It requires a lot of surrender, a lot of faith in your higher power, of just like, I don't know what to do. Please show me what to do. I don't know where to go. I need help. I need resources. And especially as we get older and we've like achieved more things or gotten things to happen for us or made strides towards what we want in life, then especially it can be harder to have the beginner's mind, because we can really think like, well, I know what's going on, so I don't need help, or, I'm doing really well in this one area of my life, but this other area of my life, I still need help, right? And so the humility that's required to have beginner's mind is really important. And sometimes the lesson is just knowing how to admit, like, I need help, I can't do this, need some assistance in this way, right? And then the willingness to release preconceived ideas about the way things should be, right? Especially if we have been able to use tools in the past that have worked for us, or we have been able to get the certain results we wanted, or things have been able to come to fruition for us in a way that has been successful or fruitful, or feels like we're on the right path, we're doing, the right things, then it could be even harder for us to be like, well, this has worked for me before, so why isn't it working now? So having this beginner's mind. So as you think about going into 2024, thinking about letting go of things, what would it mean for me to like say like, okay, I can be open to something different. It doesn't have to be my way. I can release, this need for it to go this, and this way. Even the ideas of, it's going to be this order, this timing, this unfolding, this, whatever, right? How can I let that go? How can I release that? How can I instead turn inward and say, what do I need to let go of? Where can I let God be in charge of something and not me? Where can I kind of let go of like my grip and my timeline and my way and my unfolding, right? And a lot of times when we're humble enough to do that, like this says, it keeps your mind open to all possibilities, but also things can come together for us in a way that's much better than if we were micromanaging it ourselves, right? A lot of times we think, well, I'll just do it my way and it'll turn out great and it'll whatever, right? But if we are able to surrender to that and let things come together for us instead of us forcing it, like we're actually pretty limited in our thinking of how things can go. But if we get out of our own way and let a lot of these things come together on their own, then that opens up to even more possibility and beauty, and just like ways we can just look at things in awe than if we were in charge of everything like completely on our own. Okay, I'm gonna look at some tarot cards for you. Group 1. So yeah, the beginner's mind. So what would that look like with that? Okay, well that card flew right out, so we have one card for you. Yeah, it's time. You have to be willing to start new, right? I just heard that saying, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always gotten, right? So we have Judgment, Nine of Cups, and the Page of Swords. So this is really about, I hear like the literal term of judgment, right? A lot of times we can't get to beginner's mind, or we don't give ourselves permission to go there because we're judging ourselves too much, of just like, oh, well, I should know this, or it should be this way, or I should be able to figure it out, or whatever, right? But if we don't embody that, again, beginner's mindset, saying, I don't actually know, or I need help, or whatever, that can block us from a lot of like our wishes being fulfilled. It can block us from things unfolding for us, for reaching out for help. Someone might know someone who knows the exact person you need to talk to, or the thing you need to do, or the whatever, right? There's so many ways that this can be beneficial to us, but if we don't get out of our own way, then it never can be. And this Page of Swords is like, again, that beginner energy, like starting fresh, starting new. What do I want to do? Who do I want to contact? Where do I need to go? How can I, take it back to the basics and be like, okay, it's okay that I don't know what's going on because I'm just starting. I've never done this before, or I've never done it in this way before. So what am I going to do? What's going to happen? What's going on with all of that, right? So all of these cards are just a reminder that the limits we put on ourselves in terms of asking help or needing help, right? Sometimes we can get in our own way. And it's not a thing like, oh, I just asked one person and it didn't work out, so I can't ask anyone, right? Sometimes it's not about, you know, like we got blocked. We asked one person and they couldn't help us, so okay, I need to give up and do this, right? A beginner's mind is also the willingness to ask multiple times, to reach out to people who maybe we're not sure how they specifically could help us, right? But can we release these preconceived judgments? First of all, that we want help, that we need help, that we want to be a beginner, we want to try these things. And then can we let things come to us that could help us in a way that maybe we're not exactly the most clear or sure about, depending on what, our own, again, our own biases, our own preconceived notions. So again, a lot of being willing to be a beginner, being willing to ask for help, being willing to receive help will, you can feel like a baby and feel like embarrassed, but that is actually a lot of what gets us to where we want to go if we are able to be humble enough to get out of our own way and accept help and care and guidance and the willingness to not necessarily know everything that's going on in order to be able to get there. So if there's any self-judgment, I know easier said than done, right? But it does take strength to ask for help, to get some guidance, to not have it be your exact way, how you exactly want it to be, or else, I'm not going to do it, right? It's important. Okay, let's see what else we got for you. Group one. Yeah, turning inward doesn't have to be scary, okay? We have Four of Swords, Nine of Pentacles, and Three of Cups. So I'm hearing like use everything, right? Don't just say, okay, I'm only gonna rely on asking help from other people. I'm only gonna rely on my intuition and my thing going on within me. I'm only gonna rely on my own skills and like my intellect, right? I'm hearing blend all of these things together. So blend your intuition, blend when you turn inward what you hear with your intellect, with your logic, with basic common sense, right? And blend it with like community support. So all three of these things together, you don't have to pick one over the other, right? You can use all your gifts in your beginner's mind. It doesn't mean that you're not being a beginner, but you can use all of those gifts together in order to work things out and do things for you. So this is just a reminder that you don't have to pick one over the other, right? I really need to not listen to my own intuition at all, or I'm only going to listen to outside people, or I'm only going to be logical about everything and nothing else, right? This is saying blend all of them. If you rely too heavily on any of these things, then it won't help when we have all of them together as your gifts. And just remembering like God gives us all these resources and all these things around us and all our gifts, to use them all together, not to have to pick between one or the other, right? So what do all these things mean? What does all that look like when we combine them together for ourselves instead of just like, okay, I need to have only this one in this way, in this timing, in this whatever. So use all of that, right? Take the time to turn inward. What does that look like for you? Does it mean I pray? Does it mean I journal? Does it mean I meditate? Does it mean I go for a walk and just kind of, hear what's going on? I put my hand on my heart and just do some deep breathing and see what's going on in there, right? And then using your own confidence, your own intellect, your own skills. What do I have there? What skills do I have with that? What does that look like for me? And then your community. Who do I know who can ask someone for me? Or who do I see? Who can I reach out to? Who can I look up to? Who can I do all of these things, right? So not diminishing or downplaying any of those things, but instead using all of them together in a way that can serve you instead of, again, feeling like, okay, I just have to pick one, like, and that's it. There can be a way for all of them to come together. Yeah, slow and steady wins the race. Everyone's favorite advice, right? Yeah, you really have to surrender and allow. Also, everyone's favorite advice, right? I'm just joking because I hate when that's my advice. Okay, so Knight of Cups, Two of Cups, and Temperance. Lots of cups here on this. Okay, Temperance isn't even in the cup soup, but there's still cups on here, and Two of Cups and Knight of Cups. So I think, trusting the process, trusting the emotional. What I'm hearing is like, I'm seeing a river that has to go around a bunch of like rocks. So like trusting the emotional path you have to take is part of this process, right? Trusting that being a beginner means, okay, I have to be a little more patient than I would like to be, or things are going to take a little bit longer than I would like them to, or whatever, right? But trusting that like, okay, slow and steady, one's the race. I can go one step at a time, one day at a time, one thing at a time. I can turn inward and explore what's going on for me with that. And I can meet myself there, right? I don't need to punish myself or judge myself because I'm not further along than I think I should be, because I'm not picking up things faster, whatever that means, right? Or like any of the stuff around like, oh, I'm not doing a good job to get all these things from myself, right? And then temperance is, again, letting things even out, letting them balance out, finding your footing, finding your balance, figuring all these things out together. And so just trusting like a lot of this process of being a beginner's mind, of having to rebuild a foundation for ourselves, of having to go forward with this, it does require a lot of, letting things internally shift and figure out for themselves, instead of just being like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do and that's it, right? Versus like, okay, this is a process. I have to honor that process. I have to trust that process. I can't just let these things, happen because of whatever happenstance for me, right? So this is really about remembering it's okay for you to go with the process, be a beginner, take it slow and steady, take it at the pace it needs to go, and not trying to force it, and trusting that again, like all of this unfolding, like you have to go at the pace that God allows things to go, that your own body allows things to go, that whatever you're working through internally allows you to go, right? You can't force things faster. I mean, you can, but if you're going to do that, you end up, harming yourself, judging yourself. Things might not unfold the best for you in this way. So how can you use this cup's energy to tap into those emotions and allow them to kind of flow and go where they need to go, instead of feeling like, okay, I'm gonna do it this exact way, this exact thing, this exact unfolding, right? So how are you gonna balance that cup's energy for yourself there? And again, knowing it's not a race, it's not a whatever, it's just this is the pace I need to go at for myself. And trusting again, a lot of sometimes we can feel motivated because a lot of these emotional processes, there aren't like physical results that we're seeing, but having faith that when you do that internal work, eventually the physical reality is going to shift and change and mirror that. And then having faith in like some of this more like invisible work you're doing for yourself, instead of feeling like, oh, nothing's working, so I can't do anything, with all of that. Okay, let's get some oracle cards for you, group one. A new romantic cycle begins. Okay, so maybe this reading is resonating for you in terms of romance, or maybe you're just kind of evaluating, what does romance look like for me? These are my negotiables, these are my non-negotiables. This is how I've shown up before. This is how I want to show up in a relationship. Or it could even be like, this is how I internalized someone else's bad behavior, versus now this is what I'm doing in a relationship. So it could be even setting the tone for, saying, okay, I want to be really intentional about what I'm choosing and allowing for romance in my life. Or it could be that maybe you met someone new, you're starting a new romantic cycle, or if you're already partnered, you're kind of like getting into a deeper chapter with that person, connecting to them. Might not be a message for everyone in this group, but this card did come out. So finding that, and again, finding this balance with the scales here, the same energy with the temperance, right? Like, so remembering, how do I keep this balanced? How do I keep this even keeled connection and clarity within my heart for myself, for what I'm doing? Tribulation. Okay, so this is not to say you're going to get a million tribulations. Okay, this is to say, if I take everything that happened for me in my life and I keep learning from it, and not like a romanticized, gross way, right? Sometimes we can learn just more compassion for ourselves. Sometimes going through a hard time can just be, okay, this is the time for me to be more compassionate and kind and patient with myself. Again, maybe this beginner's mind is, it's time for me to be more loving and kind and gentle to myself, instead of like, oh my God, how come I didn't know this? Why didn't it work out? Blah, blah, right? So these tribulations, is like what you do with them and how you come out on the other side, and how you manage your relationship with yourself. That's so important when we think about tribulations. As well. And that's the nettle plant. Some of you want to drink some nettle tea. Maybe you're drawn to something like that. But yeah, just again, trusting that like your tribulations aren't in vain. You don't have to learn from something and, like I said, like this romanticized, gross, glorifying way. It could just be like, I'm learning how to be more compassionate and kind to myself. That is a very important lesson, and some things that usually we can't learn unless we learn through like hardship, suffering, things not going our way, our egos being challenged, our preconceived notions, right? And so again, not in like a spiritual bypassing, glorifying this thing type of way, but like how can I be kind to myself today when everything is, not how I want it to be, or not going I want the way I want, or anything like that, right? So what would it mean to turn inward and give myself, have that beginner's mindset of, this is how I'm going to choose to be compassionate with myself, even though I'm really not in the mood, or really don't want to, or I don't think I deserve it, or the situation is too overwhelming for me to do that, right? What would that mean? Okay, last one, relax. This is like, sometimes if you're pissed off and people are like, just calm down, and you're like, well, now I'm even more pissed, right? But so we're not trying to do that here, right? But relax is a reminder again, relax into the process, relax into the way things need to be. There's a lot of this internal work here, and you can see there's people just sitting and looking at the full moon, which is really beautiful here. So just remembering that, like, as you're going through this process, as you're showing up for yourself, as you're allowing things to change, it's important for you to take the time to stop and smell the roses and just like yourself and work on cultivating that energy within yourself as you move through this process, right? So it's not just going to be like, okay, I'm on my healing journey and here I go and blah, 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 right? It's like, what can I do for myself to give myself grace and compassion and kindness, and just kind of relax into the journey, relax into what is, relax into this process of everything, right? Because there is no arrival, right? Once you get there, there is no there, because there's always the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So what would it mean if I gave myself love and compassion and relaxed into, this is where life is taking me, and so what can I do with that? Okay, and we'll close with one affirmation card for you guys. Love is my teacher. Okay, so again, this is, I feel like a message I'm getting for you, group one, of this like beginner's mindset is like, how can I love myself in a new way, right? Sometimes it can be, like I said, when we go through hardships in life, a lot of times the lesson is just like being more compassionate and loving and caring to ourselves in a way that we weren't before. So if we really think about, what is the loving thing to do here? If one of my dearest friends or family members, or if I have a child, someone I love and care about unconditionally, if they were going through what I was going through, how would I be talking to them? How would I be treating them? How would I be showing up for them? Like, can I move that blueprint onto my relationship with myself then, right? So how can I make my relationship with myself, maybe people around you, depending on what you're going through, if the romance came up for you, right? But how can I have more love in a way that is present, and not love in this like, I have no boundaries or standards or rules or anything, right? Like, love is very much about respect. It's about boundaries. It's about standards. It's about caring for yourself. It's about cherishing. It's about acting in alignment to all of that, right? So not this like love anything goes type thing, but love in a way that is, you know, um, firm, clear, compassionate, boundaried, has standards, all of that. Love is my teacher. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi everyone, welcome. This is for everyone who picked group number 2. So you'll pick the card, create a tea or coffee ritual. All you really need to do is slow down, pay attention to what you are doing, and savor the taste. So this is obviously, the suggestion is tea and coffee, but I think the more important thing to take from this card is just like putting a few moments of mindfulness into your day and awareness, and like being present with really what you're doing, right? A lot of us have such busy schedules, and it's really easy to get caught up in the, okay, let me just eat really quickly here, or do this or do that, right? And there isn't a lot of time to really just slow down, just drink a cup of tea, just drink a cup of coffee, just sit with myself and be there. So pay attention to what you're doing and savor the taste, right? So really thinking about, you know, what would it mean for me to taste what this tastes like, to be present with what I'm drinking, to be present with all the flavors, the aromas, the smells, all of that, right? The important thing is just to really, we can't move forward with ourselves or have a connection with ourselves. We don't have any moments of stillness. We have to be still to be able to turn inward, to feel what I'm feeling, to hear what's going on, to do all of that. And if I'm not doing that, it's hard for me to connect to that. So again, this tea or coffee ritual is just, again, it's not necessarily about the tea and coffee. It can be, of course, but it doesn't need to be, this big, huge, drawn out thing. It can just be, what am I doing to show up for myself? What am I doing to take care of myself? What am I doing to show myself like I'm listening to you, I'm communicating with you, I'm holding space for myself in this way. I personally drink a lot of tea. I think it's great. It's really way to besides the health benefits, it's really a great way to like be present with yourself, to, even make the tea, put the honey, the whatever is in there. If you make coffee, right, all that ritual of it is also a time for you to turn inward and connect to yourself with that. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be about tea or coffee, but if you are someone who does drink tea or coffee, right, how can I do it mindfully? Even if it's just 5 minutes where I'm sitting here only breathing, only drinking this, only tapping in, maybe go through your gratitude list in your mind, maybe say some affirmations to yourself, right? What would it mean for really to show up in that way and pay attention to what I'm doing and pay attention to myself, right? So again, you can use tea or coffee. I'm a big supporter of tea, but it's more about paying attention, slowing down, paying attention, taking some time really just to turn inward and, give yourself just 5 minutes of your day to really be still, really turn inward, really connect to, what that feels like for yourself. And maybe that could be something you set for yourself as the new year starts, as the new lunar cycle starts. It's like what does it look like if I give myself just 5 minutes of my day to be present, to be slowed down, to be calmed down, to just practice my breathing, focus on what I'm doing in this moment instead of rushing around to each new thing again and again and again and again. Okay, I'm going to start with some tarot cards for you, group two. Okay. Knight of Cups, Three of Cups, and Nine of Pentacles. Yeah, I think just the general vibe is just slow down and be more present in your life, right? We always think like, okay, here I go. I have the next, there's always the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And even if you're someone who does practice mindfulness, unless you're intentional, it can be really easy to still get caught up in all of that. And so this really is a card of slow and steady wins the race, right? Did I say this? We have Knight of Cups, Three of Cups, and Nine of Pentacles. Slow and steady wins the race, one foot in front of the other, one thing at a time, one day at a time, right? Living mindfully. How can I go slowly? How can I be present with all these things that I need to be doing? And how can I cherish my time with my family and friends, right? There's always the next thing, and there's always movement and growth and growing and changing, and we'll never have right here and right now again. We'll never have these people in the exact way that we have them. We'll never have this like one little snapshot of our life that we have right now. And so what would it mean to be present with that? What would it mean if I'm hanging out with my friends or my family to like put my phone away and stop scrolling and just be present and connect with them? What would it mean for me to like be on a walk or really listen and really ask, some of these, ask myself to be present and deal with some of these things that push for our attention. And obviously like sunshine around children, it's easier said than done, right? But how can I infuse maybe a little bit of mindfulness into that? And then also with this relationship with yourself, right? Also with this connection with yourself of what am I doing to show up for myself, to be kind to myself, to be present with myself? Again, even just this very small tea or coffee ritual, but what can I do to just even breathe a little bit slower, speak a little bit slower, engage a little bit slower, right? Just really be present with myself in a way that maybe this world pushes us into go, 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 especially those of us who are busy and with the holiday season, if you've just been doing a lot of rushing around or just feeling like the whole world's rushing around right now, right? Like, what am I doing to cultivate stillness, to turn inward, to be able to hear my own self and be present with my physical life right here, right now, as it is, as I continue to work towards more some of these long-term goals, right? Like we need to have that balance of what am I doing to be present, to be with myself, as well as, getting to this other side of, what I'm here for and continuing along my mission. And so finding that balance between, it is important for me to take action and do things and be present in my life. But it's also important for me to, once I get to each thing I'm doing, am I present in that moment there? Am I doing what is required of me in that exact moment and doing these exact things for myself? Yeah, so I think, a lot grounding. I feel like, group two, maybe you've been pushed and rushed all over the place, all around. Maybe you've been disconnected from yourself for whatever reason. No judgment, happens to all of us, right? But we have Three of Pentacles, um, Nine of Cups, and Queen of Pentacles. So, Pentacles is earth energy. So I feel like, there's been working with people around you to achieve some of your goals, to have your wishes fulfilled, to be doing all of that. But it's like, how have you stayed grounded in yourself through all of that? How have you been connecting to yourself? How have you tried to offer yourself some compassion and understanding and awareness as all of these things are happening, right? Instead of just like, oh, I just need to be going from this to this to this to this to this. It's like, what am I doing for myself to allow these things to make sure, again, I'm present, allow these things to unfold, but be present with myself, show up for myself, give myself like grace and compassion and understanding within that. And again, cultivating that mindfulness, that stillness with ourselves. What can I do with all of those things here? So not minimizing the work it takes to get things done, to build stability for yourself, build a foundation for yourself, but here, right? How much mastery do I have over myself and my relationship with myself to make these things happen, to continue to show up in a way that is really grounded and clear and gentle, um, for yourself in that way, and not, sacrificing like the things you've done and the things you've worked for, but what does it mean to really hold, that groundedness, that presence, the paying attention to right here and right now without judgment. Just like, this is where I am. I can feel it in my body. These are the things I can see, I can smell, I can touch, I can taste. What does that look like for yourself? Okay, so maybe this is why group two, there's been a little bit of, this disconnect between showing up for yourself. Um, We have Four of Cups, the Chariot, or Five of Cups, Chariot, and Four of Cups. Maybe there's some avoidance and of some loss here, or maybe some big feelings, or some like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to think about this. I just want to go, go, go and keep going, right? And I get that. We have to do that to get through certain times in our lives, but eventually, if we want to feel balance and harmony inside, we do need to start turning inward again and looking at these things. So to me, there's some avoidance here. There was some loss, which, again, unfortunately is part of life. But then slow and steady moving forward, doing all these things, and then, you know, not thinking that the whole world is against you. Suffering is part of life. Things not going our way is part of life. Loss and not not getting everything we want the way we want it immediately is part of life. And so I feel like, paying attention and giving yourself some of that gentleness, that grace, that compassion, that is part of mindfulness, right? Can I be still with myself and be present in a way that I'm not judging myself? I don't want to harm myself. I don't need to be mean to myself anymore, right? Can I really sit with myself when I feel these big feelings and just say to myself, I love you. You did such a good job. We're figuring it out. Well, we will figure it out. You're amazing. One step at a time. We can do this. I'm not going to leave you. Here we go. Okay, right? Can you really cultivate that energy with yourself? Because that's really when we're mindful and we're present, when there's nothing else around us, it's like, can I work on building that muscle with myself of like complete acceptance, complete compassion, complete guidance into the self? Um, that's part of mindfulness is that's and part of the goal and point of mindfulness is like, can I just accept myself right as I am in this moment, right here? I just want to get one more card for you, group two, because it's kind of a heavy thing to end on. Emperor, yeah, okay, so there can be mastery, there can be, getting through this. These things take practice. You're not going to overwrite a bunch of programming or survival responses or whatever you had to do forever long in your life right away. So this is just slow and steady wins the race. You can master this. You can do this. It does take some time, but what does it mean if I were to turn inward and work on strengthening that skill within myself, right? A new start is coming. Okay, so again, I feel like when we practice mindfulness, we like it's like the onion, right? And we peel back new layers of ourselves. We have some awareness to ourselves we didn't have before. We have some connections to ourselves we didn't have before. So just trusting that like all of these things you're doing, even if it feels like you've been like clawing through dirt or like I just like a really thick like quicksand, like you're trying to swim through or going up a hill or whatever, right? These things are adding up and these things are building some momentum one way or another. And again, it's not to we don't do these things to get a certain outcome or have this exact life or like whatever, right? Part of life is um working with what we've been given and within that and responding based on the things that are going outside of us, but knowing that, what we can do in these instances are really important, and trusting that like there will be a way through this, things will change eventually no matter how long they take. But again, a new start is coming is not to beat yourself up or make yourself feel bad that, things are taking the time they're taking or this process you have to have, or I already learned this, I don't want to do it anymore, right? One day at a time, one thing at a time. Invigorate. Okay, so I think this is really just a reminder that, when we really look at the mundane or when we really practice mindfulness, that becomes invigorating eventually, right? When we stop wanting these like big, flashy, big moments, like I need more to activate me, right? We can really feel invigorated when we start practicing awareness and presence and just being like moved to tears by a sunset or a rainbow or a flower blooming or a tree or just like wow, just these miracles in these day-to-day lives that we can see and witness and really feel in our bodies when we do practice mindfulness and we do practice total presence, and that by itself can be very invigorating if we forget that that's something that can be for our benefit with that. So you can invigorate your life, you can find magic in something that has felt very mundane or not whatever for you for a long time if you are able to turn inward and look at that. Study to know yourself. This is the study to know yourself. This is the whole point of your reading, right? This is the whole point of mindfulness. This would be the whole point of the tea and coffee routine, right? Is turn inward, look at this beautiful imagery here of just like when you turn inward, like we are infinite inside. We can know ourselves for the rest of our lives if we have the dedication and commitment to ourselves. So study to know yourself is about turning inward, is about, again, being present. We can only know about ourselves, like I said earlier in the reading, if we do have the bravery to turn inward and say, what is going on in here with me? What feels like my truth to me? What's happening inside of me to do this? Right. So study to know yourself. You also, of course, can study things outside of you. Um, to just bring that awareness for yourself, but also understanding, you can study like ideas and what applies to me and blah, 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 right? But studying to know yourself also is about what do I feel? What are my reactions to things? What are my patterns? What are parts about myself that maybe I'm not the most proud of that I want to look at? Um, but, just thinking, what would that be? What would that look like for me to study to know myself, to turn inward, to, seek that beautiful infinity that's inside of me and practice that presence, that relation with myself so I can, hear myself and cultivate that relationship in that way. Okay, we're going to close with one affirmation card for you. Group two, study to know yourself. That's such a beautiful message. I live in a friendly universe. Okay, so I think Albert Einstein, the quote is the most important decision we can make is whether we live in a hostile or a friendly universe. So this is very clear. Okay, I live in a friendly universe. So if that is true, then if I turn inward and I know my own energy can't hurt me, what will it feel like if I turn inward and I say to myself, okay, how am I feeling today? How can I be friendly to myself? How can I do this? How can I trust that life is unfolding for me in a way that is gentle and kind and not in like a way that's like someone else's free will is not God or the universe imposing harm on you, right? Some things just happen in this life that we need to respond to and deal with. And part of that includes, just accepting things as they are. But if you can believe that there is a God that is, or your higher power, whatever language you want to use, that is gentle and kind and caring for you, let yourself be befriended by life. Let that moment you take 5 minutes for yourself to turn inward be really fulfilling and kind and compassionate for yourself. What would that feel like for yourself? What would that do? Just reminding yourself, I live in a friendly universe. If I really believe that, what would my 5-minute tea and coffee ritual with myself look like? Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is for everyone who picked group number 3. So I'll pick the card. Meditation practice is about trying to completely change ourselves and become something better. It's about befriending who we already are. So this is a very beautiful message. Sometimes we think like, okay, I'm going to practice mindfulness and these like self-care things so that I'll become a better version of myself so I can like myself better, right? Like that's something that happens, but usually that happens because we're spending time with ourselves and we're being more kind and compassionate to ourselves. And so again, the point of meditation, which is sitting with yourself and being really present and not trying to run away or avoid things, one of the greatest benefits of it is to just really sit with ourselves and be like, wow, how can I be kind to myself right now? How can I practice compassion and care for myself right now? How can I show up for myself in a way that is gentle and understanding and patience? And what would it feel like if I really just sat with myself and held myself? What would it feel like to really take a deep breath in and say, this is who I am right now in this moment, and I completely love and accept myself, even when it's hard, even if I feel like I shouldn't, even if I feel like I'm failing, right? What would it be like to really sit with myself and just say, this is where I am today in this moment, and I love myself, and I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to connect to that. I'm going to hold space for that. What would that do for me? What would it look like, right? So it's not about trying to completely change ourselves and become something better. It's about befriending who we already are. So if we know that our own energy can't hurt us, if we know that, these things I'm doing are adding up, if I know that there'll always be something to change or grow into or whatever, which is good. It's healthy to want to grow and change and, become a new person, and not a completely new person, right? But have goals and chase things and work to make this world better, make ourselves better, right? If I know I'm doing all of that, how could I befriend myself today in this moment along the way, right? I don't need to become or achieve this certain thing for me to get there. I can hold compassion and befriend myself along the way, in the path along the way, right? I don't need to become this totally 100% amazing person to be like, okay, cool, that's when I'll love myself. That's when I've made it. That's when I'll achieve these things, right? It's like, what can I do along the way in order to connect to that and hold space for myself? And so meditation practice um, is one way to do that. If meditation isn't for you, you can just practice some deep breathing. The group before this one, there was a suggestion, one of the cards, to have like a coffee or tea ritual, right? How can I just say, like, maybe I can journal to myself something kindly, maybe I can take a walk in nature and like work on my inner voice, kindness to myself, right? So what does it mean for me to really turn inward and be kinder to myself, to show up in these ways that are, befriending myself? And you can think about it in the way of like, when you make a new friend, like someone outside of you, what do? You get to know each other. You ask about your interests. You say, how are you feeling today, right? Can I practice some of those things with myself in order to deepen that relationship to myself as well? Okay, I'm gonna look at some tarot cards for you. Group 3. Yeah, you have the strength to do this, even if it seems like you don't. Okay, so you have the strength, the Nine of Swords and Queen of Pentacles. But it is, again, befriending. That's a really important word I'm hearing for you guys, group 3, right? It does take strength to befriend ourselves and to kind of look at these stories we have about ourselves, these things that have happened in our life, these realities that don't feel the best to look at, right? It takes strength to do that. It takes strength to be like, okay, here's something I don't like about myself, or that I regret, or that I didn't act in the best way. What am I going to do to use the strength to look at that and to um, make something better because of that situation? And this is in a situation where like there's self-blame involved for something that wasn't your fault, right? I'm not talking about victim blaming, right? I'm talking about maybe things where I didn't act with the most integrity, or I wasn't maybe being the best version of myself, or I wasn't, like I was doing things because I was in survival mode. And so not excusing the behavior, but recognizing that's what I did at the time. That was the best I could do. And so now I want to choose to be better. So it takes strength to befriend yourself, to offer yourself compassion and understanding and say, okay, this is what I did, and now I'm going to be better move for that. And that just the groundingness of that with this Queen of Pentacles energy of what does it mean to turn inward, to show up for myself, to say, okay, I'm going to be accountable to myself because I know this is the type of person I want to be. This is who I want to be in the world. This is what I want my actions to say about myself. This is what befriending myself means. Like, I love myself so much that I want to be a better person, that I want to be accountable. I want to live with integrity. I want to live in a way that shows that my values are coming out of my actions. What would that look like? What would I do? And so really holding space for that, and really, asking myself what would be great things for me to do? What would it look like for me to befriend myself, for me to look at these exiled part of myself and say, okay, if I really held them and I really tried to be a better person, hold space for them, what would I do? What would happen? What would come to be for me with that? And just really, owning that, holding space for that, tapping into that, is what we want to look at here. Yeah, and taking action to do that, okay? And just remembering, like, you can set yourself free from these things. I'm hearing that Anise Nin quote, shame is a lie someone told you about yourself. Shame is the lie someone told you about yourself, right? So, okay, let me tell you what the cards are. Okay, so we have the Eight of Wands, Ace of Swords, and Eight of Swords. So just really, you can be different, right? Even if you had this certain pattern, or even if you have talked to yourself in a certain way, or even if you did this thing that you're not the most proud of, you can be different. You can have something different in your life, right? So this really is about taking action, building momentum, and really setting yourself free, setting new boundaries. Say, this is what I'm not doing anymore. This is what I'm not choosing anymore. I want to be different. And just really, owning that. And I love the Eight of Swords. This is one of my favorite cards when it comes to like learned helplessness and just like, and again, not we do what we have to do at the time we do it to get through what we're going through. But eventually you have to recognize like no one's around you. No one's holding a sword to your throat anymore, right? This is someone who's they could just easily remove the bandages, take it off their eyeballs, right? Like, so that's enough. You can do something different now. You don't have to be in that place anymore. And again, this isn't like a victim blamey, like, oh, you took too long or this or that or whatever. It's just like there comes a point in our lives where if we want a different life, we have to change ourselves. And that starts with befriending myself. And that starts with saying, okay, how can I be more compassionate to myself to want to be better? And so I think knowing you do have the choice to take action to change something, even with something like small, right? Or like, how could this add up to anything? It can, it does, and it will. And so just really trusting that and leaning into that and knowing that it's important for you to be able to move forward in these ways. And again, taking those actions, even if they're just teeny tiny baby steps where your ego's like, that's not even doing anything, right? That doesn't, that's not the point. The point is to continue to keep moving with all of these things. And again, choosing who do I want to be? What do I want to have in my life? What boundaries do I want to set? How do I want to make things happen in a way that I didn't before? If I'm really befriending myself and acting in a way that does feel like integrity and feels like I am a person I'm proud of being. What does that look like? What does my day-to-day look like? How do I talk to myself? How do I talk to other people? What actions do I take? What type of life am I living? How am I spending my time? What am I doing? Right? All of those things can add up and be like sources of guidance and support for us as we decide what it means for me to like really be with myself and really, know myself and hold myself in a kind, gentle, and compassionate way. Okay, you have to leave some things behind to be able to do that. Okay, I know that's why a lot of us don't want to change is, or we have resistance to change is even if it's something that we don't necessarily like, at least it's familiar to us. At least I know what this is going to be like, right? Self-sabotaging myself, being mean to myself, not going after my goals. I know exactly what's going to happen. I might not like it, but at least it's familiar, right? And so we have the Six of Swords, Ten of Wands, and Page of Pentacles. You have to be willing to let things go and move away from things if you want different things in your life, right? So this is obviously very much about letting something go, being able to leave something behind, even if it served you, even if it was part of your formative experiences. And this card is more about like, what have I picked up that I don't need to be picking up that I can let go now, right? So I think this one is more about like choices I've made, things I've had in control of. And this is more of like, what things have I internalized from society, from other people, from whatever limiting beliefs, right, that I don't necessarily need to hold or carry about anymore. And giving yourself permission to look like, can there be something new here? Can I look at this in a new way? Can it unfold in a different way for me? Can it be something else or something different, right? So what would it mean to do that? What would it mean to put some of these things down and let go and then say, okay, what can be birthed here that's new? What can I choose that's new? What can be different that, maybe I never looked at before or um, looked at in a different way with this. And again, can be scary, but that's when we want to grow and change, we have to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, push ourselves away from what's familiar if we want something different. If we want to have a different life for ourselves, different choices for ourselves, different outcomes for ourselves. Okay, then we have the Hierophant, the Fool, and Queen of Wands. So yeah, I feel like having that balance, like I was just talking about, that balance between like, these are my basics, this is how I take care of myself, this is how I'm going to be accountable for myself. And then this is like being willing to take the leap of faith, to go into the unknown, to say, okay, I trust that I'm taking care of what I can and need to take care of within myself, and I can let go of some of the control and get to the other side. And then that Queen of Wands is about embodying those things together, like having the passion, but having the control, knowing this is what I can control, this is what I can't control, this is where I'm powerful, this is what I can release, right? And so looking at all of these things together and just trusting that like you have all of these things for yourself. So what are you going to do with them within that for yourself, instead of deciding, okay, this is the end thing of what I need to do. This is where I'm going. This is how all these things are adding up for me and myself in my life. And again, knowing you know what to do with that, if you have that connection to yourself, if you build that connection to yourself and decide, okay, this is the whole outside world is telling me these 20 million things. I like this one, and that's what I'm going to keep and cultivate within myself, but I'm still going to do these other things for myself, right? So really owning and using that discernment of this is what works for me, this is what doesn't work for me, and that's how I'm going to show up for myself in a way that feels comfortable, but also pushing myself a little bit outside of that comfort as well. Adjustments are required. So yes, exactly what I was just talking about. If you want to get to the other side, if you want to do something different, you have to shift and change and adjust your life, the things you do, all of that to be able to get there. So adjustments are required is not just as responding to life, but if you want to grow and change and become a different person or show up in these ways, like adjusting is also what you need to do within yourself based on these things in order to cultivate a different world for yourself, internally and externally with that. So adjusting, this used to work for me, but now it didn't. This is the relationship I have with myself, and now it needs to look a little different, right? What are you going to do with all of that? Soothe. Okay. Again, so another big point of meditation is like we learn to soothe ourselves, right? We learn to say, okay, I know you feel really scared today, self, but I'm here. I'm going to stay with you. We're going to figure this out. Or, I'm really anxious about this. Like, it's okay. I'm safe. It's okay how I feel. I can do one thing at a time. I can do all of that, right? So practicing that soothing energy, that's one of the other benefits of meditation too, is we really learn to sit with myself, to befriend myself. What would I need to hear? What if someone else said it to me? I would feel more calm. Can I practice saying that to myself? Can I practice building that connection to myself, right? And not saying that we don't need external support to do that. We do. We're an interdependent species. It's amazing to have people we can rely on, but can I also practice that self-soothing within myself? Can I practice that connection to myself, and what it looks like? So really leaning into some of the soothing energy for myself. And again, like that befriending, like I think that was a really beautiful word that was on your opening card, right? Can I befriend myself? Can I accept myself as I am right now, as I continue to grow and change, instead of just like, oh, I'll accept myself and befriend myself once I do XYZ, right? Can I do it right now in this way? Embrace stillness. I mean, this is, your opening card was about meditation, right? Meditation, like I said, even if it's not actually sitting and doing meditation, some type of stillness practice, some type of connecting to yourself, to doing all of that. And so embracing that and realizing like, okay, this is what's working for me. This is what's not working for me. This is what I'm connecting to. This is what I'm not connecting to. This is what feels good, doesn't, whatever, right? So embracing stillness is a reminder that it is important for you to can I befriend myself? Can I be still? Can I hold space for myself? And that's what will result in me developing this connection to myself, um, and peeling back these different layers of myself, these different parts of myself that maybe I didn't realize were there, or the hurt I didn't know was there, or the growth, or this new part of myself that, whoa, where did this come from? All of these things, right? So embracing stillness is definitely part of that. I nurture my inner child. Yeah, so again, I feel like a big theme for you, group 3, is really this energy of when we befriend ourselves, we're soothing ourselves, we're holding space for the parts of us that maybe didn't get the love and care and attention that we needed. So part of meditation is you can envision yourself as a child, or you can just say, send love to yourself as a child. But just recognizing like how innocent your child self was, how much care they deserve, how much attention and gentleness you can give them now as an adult, what that means for you. And so just remembering, what would it feel like to nurture that, to when you befriend yourself in the present moment, you can also practice befriending your inner teenager, your inner preteen, your inner child, like all of those things, and just say like, what do you need from me today? What can I do for you so you feel soothed, so you feel seen, so I can befriend you, right? Just really knowing that that is a space you can intentionally hold for yourself in that way. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.